was to have directional signs, and that when people come into a city, they look for the signs of how to get to places. And, you know, I kind of thought about it, and I'm like, well, that makes sense. So I'm supporting it.
Thank you.
Again, this is your fourth year in operation. With today's day and age, you have the giant billboard that you have in front of the place. Between Twitter and Yahoo and Facebook, all you have to do is put in the stadium, and you can know where this is. It's kind of hard to miss it. So the idea that these little signs are really going to get people to you easier, I still don't buy it.
Any other council persons have anything?
Yeah, so I'd point out that when we go ahead and drop the specific reference for Jimmy John's and leave it simply as the park, the ballpark, that what we are doing is recognizing that this, while it is a private business, it is very unique to the community. It seems that it's representing or supporting the existence of the structure. It's blending in with the full sense and the expectations for wayfinding. It's creating a sense of consistency. I don't feel that when we simply say the ballpark that we're in a situation where we're providing de facto advertising. I think it's really more falling into a consistency with how we go ahead and structure and lay out a community. That's just my sense on it.
Thank you. Mr. O'Donnell, anything, sir?
No.
All right.
I'd like to add one thing. I think the other important thing is that it is returning a value to our residents. It's solving a problem that I heard about from a lot of the folks that live over in the Flickinger neighborhood. I heard from at least 6 people when I campaigned for this position that they were discouraged that their signs were not updated. So it's going to give us an opportunity to update some signs. I'll have to do the math. I'm always looking for ways to return a value to the residents, and I think this is a win-win for all parties.
Mr. Covington, sir? Thank you.
Yes, Mr. Appleby, as you know, you and I have not seen eye to eye too much since I voted for you to get the ballpark because of being one-sided. This time you've come by making an offer to help us, which I am glad to see, instead of just wanting your giving. My one question is, how many signs are there to be signed with the ballpark wrote on them? So
I think
exactly.
we determined there were 12, didn't we?
I think it's more than that. It's the, I don't know how many.
It's just the
signs are there.
wayfinding signs.
Yeah.
Like on Hall Road and.
Yeah, just actual directional signs. It wouldn't be like the ones near City Hall or anything
Yeah,
like that.
yeah.
Just be simply the ones that give you direction and an arrow.
More than 12 of those?
There's, I think, 8.
Some are buried like.
I think there's quite a few. There's a lot of little
I
signs
guess what I'm
around.
trying to get at is I don't want to see any new ones pop up.
No new ones.
There'll be the
No new
existing.
ones. Yeah, whatever
And
the
there's a
existing
little bit of
ones
precedent
are.
set. There is one wayfinding sign on eastbound Hall Road.
That's an MDOT sign.
I think it's a wayfinding sign, isn't that?
It's not ours.
And,
It's not the city of
we might
Utica.
not be talking about
Is our design, isn't it?
That is not our sign. We didn't, that's MDOT property.
Okay. Well, I was gonna say, there's a sign that's wayfinding sign, apparently it's not on ours, but it is a City of Utica wayfinding sign, it says the Sterling Heights Regional Chamber of Commerce, as you're going eastbound down Hall Road.
But I also want to say that I do agree with Councilman Sikora on what he says, because most people that come to the ballpark now have been there 3 or 4 times probably. It's nothing. There's not that many people that haven't been there. It's always busy. So I do agree with him, but at the same time, I appreciate your offer.
Any further discussion? Because we'll go ahead and get ready to take it to a roll call vote. Ms. Ricketts, we'll have the roll call vote, please.
Sikora?
No.
Torenzi?
Yes.
Cuttington?
Yes.
Sylvester?
Yes.
Calandrino?
Yes.
O'Donnell?
Yes.
Deanne?
Yes. Okay, very good. Motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Appleby. Thank you. Did you want to address the fireworks at this time?
Sure.
Okay. Years past, Mr. Appleby has received permission to have fireworks on Friday nights. It's been previously hotly contested. We did a survey by actually hitting the neighborhoods, myself and a small team, and did a neighborhood survey. The results came back 90, I think it was 85% in favor of allowing the fireworks to happen. Council did approve that for a 5-year term. Mr. Appleby has the national anthem sang by local residents or local people, and during the national anthem, they fire off a couple fireworks during the rockets' red glare and bombs bursting in air, right? Which some of the residents, or some of the patrons seemed to like. There was a complaint that people did not like that and didn't fit within what was the agreed specification for the firework use. So Mr. Appleby is here tonight to ask permission to have those fireworks be allowed within the previous agreement as we allowed years past.
And it would ride along with the current 5-year agreement.
It would be the Friday night firework agreement amended to the point where they could have the three blasts they do?
That's about what it is,
Something like
yeah.
that. 2 or 3 blasts they do of fireworks during the national anthem. So that would be his request. And so he would require a motion at this time to approve that request.
I would just like to say that, as you know where I live, it was quite the shock the first time, because I'm not expecting it. It's not 10 o'clock and all of a sudden a big bang. First time scared the shit out of us, because we didn't know it was gonna happen. And that was one of the problems that we had discussed. And I think there's a band that's parked here on Friday nights also. And those people probably are not ready for it either, when they don't know what's gonna happen. So that was one of the concerns for me.
I'll make a motion to deny it, and then we can discuss it. I'm gonna make a motion to deny the fireworks at the beginning that were really never asked for and never approved as part of the original fireworks at the end of the games on Friday nights.
Can I ask a quick question? Is it, just for point of order, would it be better to do a motion to approve and have it shot down rather than, because then you still have to, then the motion, then there'd be no action taken to require a second motion to approve? Am I mistaken with that line of theory? No?
Before we make a motion, I have a question.
Okay, can we, let's go ahead and, I apologize. What we'll do, Mr. Sikora has made a motion to deny. I'll second that motion, okay? We'll open up to discussion. Okay, Ms. Trinsey.
Well, there was comment that there were complaints. I'm just curious as to, was it massive complaints or a handful, or how many complaints do we have?
I received one.
You received one. Anybody else?
I have personally received that. I do go to the music in the park. The band is trying to play. These go off. The fireworks is what you wanted. You wanted pizzazz for the families and everything else. Again, and this still comes down to, it was never asked for. You just did it, okay? You didn't ask permission. You didn't bring to us. It was never part of the original process. So if it wasn't part of the process, it wasn't approved, so really, it shouldn't be going on without approval. So I'm making, my motion was to deny any approval of allowing them. So,
So I understand that was my fault. I didn't perceive that to be something that we would need approval. That was my fault. So,
again, it's easier to ask forgiveness than permission, and this is where we're at again. So we went through all the timing, when fireworks could be, when the games had to stop, very much in detail, and this little detail just got forgotten. Just got forgotten, okay? So, again, my motion stands where it's at. I'm not trying to give you a hard time, but there are other events that go on. It's not gonna make or break your games. You're still gonna have the national anthem. You're still gonna have you're still gonna have your fireworks at the end of the night.
And Andy, I did have one resident complain on my street, Brownell, but they weren't, very concerned. They just asked me, what's this? What are they doing now? That kind of thing, and I explained it to them, and
Yeah.
they seemed to be fine. Now, one thing I did notice, and it was the 4th of July weekend, but I did notice the fireworks went over 6 minutes on Thursday and Friday, both nights. Is that maybe just because it was the 4th of July and,
Maybe our fireworks company added a few, but it's
Okay.
usually always 3 or 4 minutes.
yeah, it's usually under 5.
Yeah.
For sure, and I think that's what the agreement was.
Yeah. So I have one thought is that I think would work is sometimes they add a couple of booms at the end. That might be what you perceive to be overkill. So if we were able to kill that last part of it, because, I mean, it's really cool when for anyone that's ever seen it, you know, it's highlighting the national anthem. People really think it's cool, you know, and it's 2 seconds. But
So we've had, it's been moved, it's been supported, it's been discussed.
I have another question.
Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Rizzi.
What time does the band start on Friday?
7.
7.
So if the band started at 7:05?
Well, the national anthem starts when? Like 6, you said
I think
6:58?
it's 6:58.
So technically, it's just beforehand.
I guess my question is there something that could be worked out between the bands and the ballpark?
They're kind of not overlapping.
Okay.
So the motion's been made to deny it. A vote in the affirmative would be that the request would be denied. Okay, and a vote in the negative would have no merit, in my opinion, on this because it would not benefit Mr. Appleby. In order to, if Mr. Appleby did decide that we're going to do this, we need an additional motion after this one for the approval. Okay, but Mr. Sikora has made a motion to deny. I've seconded that motion so we can have the purposes of discussion. So, Ms. Ricketts, we'll take a roll call vote.
Sikora?
Yes.
Torenzi?
No.
Cuddington?
Yes.
Sylvester?
No.
Calendino?
No.
O'Donnell?
No.
Deanne?
No. Okay, motion fails. It would now require a motion to approve the fireworks if council members were inclined to do so. I will make a motion to approve the fireworks for the typical use that Mr. Appleby is using to amend the current agreement to the use, to have fireworks at the 3, is it 3, Mr. Appleby? 3 fireworks during the national anthem.
I'll support.
It's been moved by Deanne, supported by Terenzi. Any discussion at this point? If not, Ms. Ricketts will take the roll call vote.
Sikora?
No.
Torenzi?
Yes.
Cuddington?
No.
Sylvester?
Yes.
Calendino?
Yes.
O'Donnell?
Yes.
And Deanne?
Yes, very good, motion carries. The agreement will be amended. Okay,
Thank you.
so, okay.
Can I say, I never thought I would be voting yes on fireworks.
Not you. Never.
Take care, Andy.
All right, guys. Well, very good. So, a couple things handled there. Sorry for the delay, folks. I know it does make things go on a little bit, but there's a process in council. Building inspector did request that he is paid for his court time. Council, do you have any time to consider this? Mr. Hicks is looking for a sum of $30 an hour when he is anticipated to be in court. He does make his way to court a handful of times a year, not typically more than maybe once every, how often have you seen him there?
We've been there twice this year, since January 1st.
So what he's looking for is he's looking to be compensated when he attends court on behalf of the city. So, Council, did you have a chance to review that or any consideration that you may have thought in last month?
I think this is the 3rd time I've given this speech now. This has nothing to do with Jerry, because I think he's doing a phenomenal job. He and I have worked, he's done all the work, but I've sent him all the information to do the work, and he's just a dynamo. He gets it done. So it has absolutely nothing, it's not a reflection of the job he's doing, for sure. My concern is, we just increased our expenditure on this function over 70% last year, and I would much prefer to see it handled on a flex time basis. If he's in court for 2 hours, then he only works, in the field 18 hours.
Well, Mr. Hicks, you work 20 hours a week.
I work 20 hours a week for
as
code
blight,
enforcement.
For code enforcement and blight.
And blight.
Okay. And I think if you look on social media, Mr. Hicks has made a phenomenal difference and impact with what he's done. We call upon him, he goes.
Absolutely. I said that.
Yep. Oh, I know.
For the
Mr.
record.
Mayor and men and women of the council, if I may, okay? and I'm not throwing the police under the bus here, but the police officers go to court, they get 4.5 hours of straight pay. And I do the same thing they do. The only difference is they patrol the streets. I patrol the neighborhoods, the buildings, the safety for our community. I do the investigations, just like they would have to do when they get a problem. I write the violations, I write the tickets, I write the reports, I have to give the testimony, so, and my time in court is worth something. There's no difference other than they wear a blue suit and carry a gun. I wear plain clothes and carry a gun. That's the same difference, okay? But I protect the citizens in the buildings and so forth, not on the streets.
And the court rate's higher than your standard rate as well, right?
Well, I'm asking for $30 an hour for court rate. My regular code enforcement is $20 an hour.
But you're looking for a rate of $30 per hour and not to exceed, if you're there for an hour, you paid 30 hours. You're not looking for the 4 hour.
No, just $30 straight time when I'm in court.
And so far, that's been twice a year.
Well, actually, it's been, because we were in court 3 different times where the people didn't show up for court. All right, so I was in court for 4 times total. It's not a reoccurring thing, you know, the only time I take them to court is if they don't comply. They don't want to comply. Then I have no alternative.
And then ultimately as well, we recover fees when they're cited as well.
Yes.
So, and if Mr. Hicks doesn't go to court, it'd be the case that these people, their case could be dismissed, but Mr. Hicks's testimony is required, and if he doesn't arrive to, I mean, you couldn't get me to go to court without a subpoena for free. I don't think anyone wants to go to work for free. So I think that he's out there doing the job, he has to finish the job.
You know, we also
Can I
went
say
through a
something?
period where we didn't give any of our employees a raise.
Thank
We
you.
gave them bonuses. We just don't have the money. We have to be responsible to our residents, to our taxpayers. We just raised the expenditures on this over 70% last year, and I can't go to these people and say, we need more money. I just can't do it.
Sure. Mr. Hicks is out there creating organized chaos for people to conform.
And he's doing a fantastic job, and
And
I've given the speech 3 times that
Yeah,
he's
part-
doing
Part
a
of the
dynamic job.
process is he's bringing people into court, which is bringing revenue to the court, which is obviously, enforcement's not a revenue-generating thing, but it is a part of the,
So why is flex time not an option?
I-
I don't understand why flex time's not an option.
I don't want to take him away from his duties.
Does he not go on vacation ever? He's away from his duties when he goes on vacation?
Yeah.
Don't you go on vacation?
Huh?
Don't you go on vacation?
Absolutely.
All right, my time is my time, but when I'm here in the city, I give the city my time.
All right, Mr. Hicks, we're gonna stop right there.
Yeah, Mr. Hicks, I appreciate what you do, I really do. I know you're doing a good job. However, I agree with what Councilman Calandrino has just said, that we didn't give raises to any of our department heads this year. You know, we could barely balance our budget, and I just don't know if it's the right time to be able, I would prefer to see you to get
Also
flex
don't-
time.
I mean, I've written tickets to people and I've had, without actually counting, probably $2,500 worth of fines of tickets that I've written that come into this city that we get. All right, so I'm paying for myself. That I do know. But it's your call.
The idea of flex time isn't saying that you won't be paid for your time. If it's $30 an hour, it could be, and your normal rate is 20, it would be for every hour that you go in court, you're allowed an hour and a half of time. So again, if you went to court, instead of working 20 hours that week and you had an hour there, you're gonna work 18 and a half and still be paid 20. So nobody's asking you not to be paid.
Oh, no, I'm not saying that.
Okay.
I'm just asking.
Well, what I'm saying, so I think that the idea of flex time, one, it keeps our budget where we agreed to, okay? 2, you're asking because you're representing it as a court officer, that they paid a little bit more at that point, which I can deal with, okay? But the idea is for every hour you serve in court, you get an hour and a half of paid unworked time. So it's that flex time.
I think
So our
that's
budget
a
doesn't
good
change.
compromise, yeah.
So you're still, we're not asking you to go to court for free. It's just
Right.
trading hours. So, does that work?
That's agreeable.
Yeah.
Okay, so, Mr. Hicks, I guess the council would require a motion to approve the request from Mr. Hicks, and what we do is he would flex his time at 1.5 hours for court time. It'd be the equivalent to the rate of pay. Okay?
Well,
So
you need to
moved.
clarify the motion because you're not actually approving his request. You've created a new proposal.
Okay, so I will make a proposal that when Mr. Hicks or subsequent building inspector, this comes with the position, goes to court, that they will be compensated at 1.5 times the normal hourly rate paid to be done in flex time.
Support. This has been moved by Sikora. Correct, do you proposal? Yes. We'll need a motion to approve your proposal. Okay. I will motion
Okay.
to approve what Mr. Sikora just described. We'll require support.
Support.
Moved by Dion, supported by Calandrino. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Very good, the motion carries. Thank you. Okay. It's usually not this cumbersome. Next, we have the locker room, 7790 Auburn Road, a sidewalk license request. Miss Liz is here. Miss Liz, would you guys, it's Mark, right? Yeah. You guys make your way to the podium. So previously, Miss Liz, I'm sorry, the last name again.
Colley.
Colley. Ms. Colley came before is requesting to use some of the city property and immediately east of the locker room saloon. Liz is the owner of the building, I'm sorry, the owner of the business, and she would like to be able to have outdoor dining on the east side of the building, which would rest that area onto city property. And so they brought some new sketches before council today,
Yes.
and they've been provided in your packets, council? Okay. And so what would the material be that's on the ground?
We were gonna use concrete.
Concrete. Okay.
And we talked to Bill Lang about the utilities, and we had Miss Dig come out and mark off everything, and we're good to go with that. There's no major utilities underneath. There's AT&T lines and consumer energy, gas lines, and those are all marked off. So it's not gonna be affected by putting the concrete down. We adjusted the size of the patio, so ADA regulations say it has to be 36 inches from the lamp post, so the sidewalk is still accessible. And so we have it 43 inches from the lamp post, so it's a good amount of space. We're also putting in a gate on the Auburn side near the front door, and that's also a secured gate. That's gonna be only used for anybody who needs wheelchair access so they can enjoy the patio as well.
Okay. So council, any questions for Ms.
Is this
Colley?
a portable gate, portable fence?
Yes,
So
it's
it'll-
gonna be kinda how Hogs Hollow has it, where
Okay.
it's this, in the packet, it's gonna be 4-foot aluminum fencing with the 6-foot posts.
Yeah.
So it's gonna be mounted into the concrete so we can remove it in the wintertime.
So just some kind of bracket or something will remain
Yes.
in the concrete?
Yes, that gets built in and cemented in, and you just slide them down in there.
Great. Council, anything further? for
This
Ms.
is
Colley?
going to be seasonal only, not annual.
Yes.
Yeah, it'll be a very similar, well, actually, the exact same consideration that Danny J's and Hogs Hollow currently receive. Mr. Connington?
Yeah, did you come to a conclusion of who's doing the work on that piece of land once you take the trees out?
Here, you wanna handle this?
Yeah, Ms. Colley, have
Because I
you,
remember the mayor had mentioned something about coming up with the bricks and stuff.
Right, because we weren't sure if we were gonna do the brick pavers. I mean, if you guys would prefer the brick pavers to match the city, or if we do the cement. The trees, because they're city property, and you guys had already previously discussed wanting to remove them, I'm not
I
sure.
think we granted you permission to remove those on the
Yes.
last meeting. We voted on that.
I'm not sure what the plan was, if it was going to be all out of my pocket, or part of the city, or, because it's all city property. I mean, I would pay for the concrete and take care of that, but the trees.
Well, I don't
wasn't
think there
sure.
should be any cost to the city in this, to the residents at all. There's
Okay.
not been any cost to Danny J's or Hogs
yeah,
Hollow.
and that's a good point, is while the city wasn't immediately looking to take those trees down.
Right.
There had been talk, but there's been no action that someone said, we're gonna take these down next week. So
Gotcha.
it'd be my assertion that if you were gonna do that, then taking down the trees would be on you.
Okay,
as well as the cement slab.
yeah.
Installing the cement, yeah.
The fence, the posts,
Right.
everything is.
So are you prepared to be able to do everything on your
Yeah.
own?
And, you know, initially there was talk, or you had kind of a vision of trying to have some kind of an outside fire pit or something along those lines.
Yes.
Is that's not part of this?
That's something
This
I'd
is-
love to do down the line, if that's something we could
But that's not part
discuss,
of
but
this.
no.
Right,
Mr. Hicks, have you been out to the site?
Yes.
Everything appeared to be in order?
Yeah.
Okay.
So far.
Thanks. All right, so council, this was presented before. It would require a motion to approve as specified in your packets.
How do we, since we're not doing this cement slab, right? How do we ensure that it stays maintained?
Well,
Is there gonna be insurance if somebody gets hurt, you know,
Well,
on
It's
the
still gonna be
cement?
city property. How does it work being that's a licensed area for them? Are they ultimately responsible?
I believe our contract provide for them to be, the city to be an additional insured.
Okay.
For under the license, a sidewalk license, yes.
Ms. Ricketts, in the yearly fee, is it $700 a year?
Correct.
$700 a year. Okay. So it would be the responsibility of you to have that named on your insurance and have the city of Utica also named
Okay.
on your insurance as well. The installation of the concrete would obviously be inspected by our inspector.
It says 750 on the,
I'm
that's
sorry.
from last,
It's 750.
750 first
initially,
year.
600 renewal? Okay, then it's in your packets then, so,
this is last year's, last month's,
okay, very good.
yeah.
All right. Council, anything further from Ms. Colley? That would require a motion.
I'll make a motion that we approve Ms. Colley taking down the trees and taking down her door and adding the cement and adding the fence as presented.
We already approved the trees
Well,
last
I'm
meeting.
approving it again.
Okay.
I'll second the motion.
Also, are we including basically entering into the sidewalk license agreement?
Thank you.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep, as requested.
Uh,
So,
Mr. Hicks brought up that there's permits that are required as well?
yep, but-
She knows that.
Okay.
yeah, we won't get there without the permits. That's it's a known fact.
Follow all the rules.
So it's been moved, it's been supported. Any further discussion? Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Very good, motion carries. Thanks, Liz.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mark.
Thank you.
All right. Moving on next, Ms. Ricketts, we have some correspondence from the Utica Pioneers, the senior citizens, thank you. We would require a motion to receive and file.
So moved.
Support.
Moved by Sikora, supported by Trinsey. Any discussion? If not, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Very good, the motion carries. New business, item A. Five Star Ponds requesting a license renewal. So, gentlemen?
Good evening. My name is Joseph Shimatero. I'm here to speak on behalf of Five Star Pond, Jason and Justin McCallum. You know, as I'm sure you're all aware, they own and operate the business just east of Van Dyke on M59. It's a pawn shop. They've been there for over 10 years now, or 10 years. They've grown and expanded the business. They're property owners in the community. Jason here, he lives in neighboring Shelby Township. His partner, Justin, is a resident of Utica, married here, has a daughter that attends school here. They own the property. You know, they're taxpayers. They contribute. They're actively involved in the community. And the reason, normally I would imagine this is something that they never appeared before you before in their past renewals, but it's come to their attention, and I'm sure it's come to the board's attention, that there was an incident about a month ago in which Jason was arrested. And we're here tonight to give you some background if you had some questions about that or wanted to address direct questions to him. And I'll give you a little bit of background. There was a task force.
Before we go into that,
Yeah.
what I'd like to do is I'd like to hear the chief's rendition of it.
Absolutely.
I guess I don't know how much detail I want to go to, because I think there's some still pending matters on that. I don't know that matter's completely closed out yet.
Well,
That's my
I'm
understanding.
not representing him in the
Okay.
criminal matter. I've spoken with this criminal attorney. I've spoken with Jason. It's my understanding there are no criminal charges, and there won't be any criminal charges coming forthwith.
Okay. And that's why I say I don't know the closing on that. We had a very good working relationship with them for some time in dealing with some things with the pawn shop. Every once in a while, there comes to be a point where they can have a mutually good working relationship with law enforcement to help resolve some issues. The matter that their representative has kind of brought to the attention of the board has kind of compromised that for us. And moving forward, it kind of leaves us in a very difficult position from a law enforcement standpoint to continue to trust the type of work that they're doing and move forward with that into the areas that we need to have credible information for. So that does pose some difficulty with us.
What was the recommendation of the Detective Bureau?
The Detective Bureau works very closely with the owners there, and his recommendation is that he can no longer continue to rely on them for reliable information to move forward with any type of law enforcement activities.
Right. And I understand that you're at the podium, but because you're at the podium doesn't necessarily have to, we don't have to afford you the right to have your say, unfortunately, okay? Council's been made aware from our chief, and we're going to rely on his words, but council's certainly welcome to ask you any questions. But we don't want to get into the minutia of the incident, just that we're going to go based upon what we've been informed on.
Council is going to have to provide the basis for denial. If denial is issued,
Wasn't that what chief just gave us?
council is going to denial.
Okay. Okay, and speaking with our attorney, council would be responsible for providing the determination as to why the application would be denied. So, council, if you want to ask the chief any questions or the gentleman any questions to gather further information.
Chief, are you recommending us to deny their renewal of the license? Is that what we're being asked to do here?
I would, based on the recommendation from our Detective Bureau, who has the more intimate details of all the goings-on and the relationship that they've had throughout the years.
And what part of the ordinance did they, justifies that?
The ordinance maintains that they have to conduct business in a lawful manner. Some of the investigation and so forth that has taken place reveals some very strong indications that that hasn't been the case.
Chief, has there been any crimes broken in the city of Utica for the investigation?
I know that my detective has worked with them on a couple of occasions. There may have been some issues he's addressed with them as to how they've conducted business at the pawn shop. I can't speak to it directly because I don't have direct information. He would be a little bit more in tune as to some of the comings and goings of things that he's had contact with, but I can't speak to one directly.
But you can't really say a law's been broken if there hasn't been any legal action, right?
I can tell you that the business has not been, from our standpoint, it compromises any type of law enforcement activity. From the information that I have gotten from the incident that he has spoken about, how the business has been conducted, many times we rely on them and their information that they take in their transactions to move forward with criminal investigations. That has been compromised. The prosecuting attorney for the county will no longer accept their information as valid information. So even if somebody comes to them that has ill intent and they are doing the right thing, they have already compromised their integrity to the point that we can no longer use them. I'll give you an example. If somebody were to try to pawn property to them currently, right now, that was found to be stolen, even if they followed all the best practices and did everything that they are supposed to do, at this point, if we use that information to find that individual and attempt to prosecute them for the possession of that stolen property, it would not be able to be forwarded through our county prosecutor. They will not accept the information as a result of the things that have transpired.
So our city attorney has some information as well.
Just to give council some background information, the city has a pawnbroker's ordinance. Pursuant to that ordinance, council is required to issue the license unless it finds one of 6 things. And the one element that may apply here is that the operation as proposed is not compliant with applicable laws, including but not limited to the city's building, fire, zoning, and health ordinances. That is under section 14-474, the ordinance. Under section 14-499, a pawn shop is prohibited from receiving any property from any person who is suspected not to be the owner of the property. And I do believe that's ultimately what the issue is here, is that this pawn shop is suspected to have received, I believe it was some Nest doorbells not necessarily that they had to know, but that they had reason to know, that they had a suspicion, reasonable suspicion, that the person who was selling these were not the owner. So if council were to deny the license, it would have to be finding that the operation as proposed was not compliant with applicable laws, specifically prohibited purchases, that they accepted merchandise from someone who is suspected not to be the owner of the property. I did talk to Mr. Shimatero a couple times on this. Perhaps if council needs more information on the allegations, because I do understand criminal charges are not being brought in relation to the incident. It was an investigation out of the Canton Police Department, and I understand that the county prosecutor's office there has decided not to bring charges. Just because somebody does not bring charges does not necessarily mean that somebody did not violate our ordinance by, receiving property that they should have known or that was stolen or not their property. So, you could still deny the license, even though criminal charges are not brought. If you don't have enough information at that time to make that denial, certainly we could, schedule this for a further hearing before council. And council's here to answer questions about the allegations as well.
So, Mr. Cullington?
My question is, if we approve his permit, how long is it good for?
I believe it's a year.
A
Just
year?
1 year.
So if there seems to be a problem, can we not go month to month until we see that things are getting straightened out?
Depends on the order.
I mean,
mean,
as
what
I'm
is-
reading the ordinance, you approve it for a year.
Yeah.
If he commits a violation after issuing that license, then that would be a separate investigation, and we could look at revoking the license at that time. But I don't think you could go back and revisit this issue once you've approved it,
I see.
unless new information were to come to light or perhaps criminal charges were to actually be brought, but.
Mr.
So
Sikora?
based on the statements of our police chief, based on our detective's work, who, everybody knows our detective is an incredible individual at what he does, plain and simple. And the idea that nothing can be used basically in a court of law, that anything happens there ever again. So it really just becomes a carte blanche type of thing of, it's not gonna matter. We lose our enforcement rights, we lose our policing rights, all of this. So I'll make a motion to deny the license based on the information that the city attorney just read as far as that part of the ordinance.
Support.
It's been moved by Sikora, it's been supported by Terenzi. Any further discussion?
Would it be understood that through the information presented so far, that would be sufficient to meet that standard?
So just to.
As under the ordinance?
Just to let the council know that if council does deny the license, the pawn shop does have an opportunity to have a hearing in front of a hearing officer. We don't have currently one in place, so we'd have to work on having one appointed to that capacity. At that hearing, we could actually take testimony. The hearing officer would render a decision, and then regardless of how the hearing officer decides, that decision, now that you have a record of what exactly happened, could still then be appealed from the hearing officer to city council to make an ultimate decision on that record.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of my sticking point almost, is that, you said it in the ordinance, we need to specify what is, I wish I had a police report, an arrest record, something in front of me that I could say, this is exactly what we're looking at.
Right, it
This
doesn't seem like
is-
there's any due
it's-
process here. I mean, we don't know the details.
The chief of police is not giving you every piece of the puzzle, because it's still an ongoing investigation. And in order to give you every nuance of it, there may be.
Jeopardize the.
Yeah, I mean, we can certainly table this and bring it back before council after the final disposition of the case, once it's adjudicated. I don't think, is there going to be a court case?
My understanding is that there's not going to be any criminal charges brought against him. Now, obviously, it's not my decision to make that. It's my understanding it's gone before the AG's office and it's gone before Macomb County Prosecutor. It's my understanding both of them have passed on charges. Now, I mean, I'm not their representative, obviously, but there's no pending charges, and I would obviously you have the authority if they do bring charges. If he is eventually convicted, you do have the authority to cite him and revoke his license at that point. And I would ask the council consider that. Again, it's the due process argument, it's fairness. You know, his opportunity to defend himself and his opportunity to be heard. The transactions involved in this, I mean, it was new equipment, but there was receipts that were provided to him, and so these were normal transactions, normal business for my client.
How many Nest cameras came in?
I think there was around 120 total, but I had called the police before that. I've always called the police. It's not part of the ordinance, it's not part of my duty as a pawnbroker. It's something that I've done to go over and above to show that I am on the up and up. Detective Morabito, who he's talking about, it took me a while to earn his trust, and I think if anybody that knows him here, he doesn't pass that out. He had my full trust. I believe he feels betrayed in this scenario because I didn't call him. Had I called him directly, which he is my normal first phone call, but because this was, I had dealt with a task force in a previous event, I reached out to them. And that was my mistake because Detective Morabito knew this gentleman who told me he was racking up credit cards, which, again, I know that sounds foreign to you, but when people are in bad situations, unfortunately, they'll do, what needs to be done. And I've had scenarios where a kid went to a Best Buy with the Best Buy card, and he charged up his Best Buy card, came in with a receipt, and needed a loan, and his idea was he was gonna take that back and then return it and not have to pay his credit card. So anyway, I know that's a long-winded story, but I've always done my job over and above what's required by law. Required by law is me purchase, hold, and report, and I've never violated
And
that.
there's 120 cameras?
Yeah,
And did he bring them through the front door of the shop and say, here's my cameras, I want you to buy them?
yeah. Well, I also knew the gentleman from 10 years ago in another business, so
He walked through the front door like any normal customer would.
yes.
Chief, have there been any other complaints against the pawn shop in the past?
No, we did have a very good working relationship for some time. There's some other details to this that kind of painted in a little bit different light than what I'm hearing now, some of the other police reports and so forth. And if people are more comfortable reviewing those from the other agency and so forth, and have given me an opportunity to speak with the detective on some other matters to review things, that's an
Can I
opportunity as
just
well.
point out too, that the due process rights are afforded before the hearing officer. That's where a hearing actually would occur, and where we would take evidence and have a record that would then be presented to council.
That makes sense. I'm talking about the Gus version of due process, not the legal version.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm making a decision here that's gonna affect a person's,
Livelihood, yeah.
livelihood.
Yeah.
And I know a motion's been made, I would feel a lot more comfortable tabling this. I'm not saying I won't vote to deny it, but I just don't feel like I have the facts.
Yeah. I mean, if possible, it'd be nice if we could do, I don't know if we're allowed to do an executive session where we could find out the details, or at least some kind of even a redacted report, something. I would like to have something to point to where it's, hey, Brad, you voted yes on this thing. Why, when it asks you why, I want to be able to say, well, see, there's this report, and
And certainly the advice of our chief weighs heavy into my decision as well.
My decision.
The question is, are we entitled to that information, or does that information come to us in the hearing?
So the hearing would not be before you, it would be before a hearing officer.
Okay.
You could table to ask the police department to bring forth more specific background that we could then, maybe the PD could research the status of the criminal investigation, whether or not those police reports, I assume several of them would be from Canton Police Department. Those may be subject to FOIA now already and, releasable.
When does his
as
license
long as-
expire, his current license?
He's expired, I believe, currently.
June 30th is when it expired.
I have another question for you. I'm sorry, I forgot your names. But are you an individual or do you have a partner?
Partner, my brother.
So you're not in by yourself?
No, and then, two small employees, one being my father.
So there's currently a motion on the table.
I would like to take back my motion and request that this be tabled.
But they're not, my question is, you are currently without a license?
Well,
Your license is expired.
I've never been in front of city council before. When I spoke with the mayor, he said that the ordinance reads that I'm supposed to come in before city council to get my renewal. I had never been told that before. I submit my renewal paperwork and I get my license in the mail. Matter of fact, I never even came in front of city council to receive my, original license. I wrote a letter to the mayor and I received the license in the mail.
But what, at that point in time, you did not have any problems?
No.
Correct.
When did this I'm sorry, Mr. Mayor, when did this alleged incident occur? Is this like 3 weeks ago, or is this months and months ago?
About a month before my license expired.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we have a motion on the table. Mr. Sikora, would you consider amending the motion to table at this point?
But is the tabling going to then grant the license to continue to do business?
I don't think so.
Ms. Ricketts, they would be in a violation if they're operating tomorrow after this decision, correct?
Linda?
I believe it would be.
Well, if we're looking at due process, it'd be the only way to do it. And if that meant closing the doors until the due process was met, then that's what we'd have to do, would be my guess.
You put me out of business, better off just denying it. I'd go out of business within weeks. As a matter of fact, not only would I go out of business within weeks, you would have, whatever city they would force lawsuits in, you would have lawsuits starting day one, day two, because I'm in charge and holding people's property as collateral for loans. So it would be madness.
Well, this is-
I hate to say it, I mean, that's the only way to go. I mean,
If you would truly prefer us to I would say that this body right now is leaning toward denying the application. I mean, if you are sincere about it, denying it, we can go to, what was it, arbitration? Hearing
That
officer?
wasn't sincere.
I know, but I'm saying that, yeah, I mean, we need more information, but I would say right now.
I'm certainly not going, in a point where I'm willing to approve you.
Yeah.
I'm either going to deny you or table this. I mean, that's where I'm at with this right now.
And the
That's
tab-
probably the
And
feeling.
the tabling is basically, in essence, not extending your license, so you're still not gonna have a license.
So a temporary
I mean-
suspension until the table was, and the hearing was heard is not possible?
Well, that would be something we'd address after this decision, perhaps. So, Mr. Sikora, you're making the motion.
My motion is still on the board, if someone wants to support it or not. Faith is, Mr. Trenzi is withdrawn, so my motion is still to deny.
Okay. Is there support for Mr. Sikora's motion? Okay. We'll show that there's no support for this motion. I would make a motion to table this until there, further investigative information can be provided before council.
I would support that.
Discussion. But does that give him temporary license to
No.
operate?
No.
So as of this moment, he doesn't have a license and he will continue not to have one.
That's correct. But we're not denying the license, we're just simply not issuing, which is maybe a mincing of words, but at this point, as of tomorrow, well, as of July 1st. So any further discussion? So we've had a motion, I made the motion, the second would be Mr. Calendino. Mr. Ricketts, we'll have a roll call vote, please.
And we're voting to,
I was just
Table.
going to
Like,
say,
voting-
to
a
table.
yes is that we
We're
vote to
voting-
table
We're
this.
voting,
Right.
the motion is to table this,
Yeah.
this
With-
agenda item.
With the
a
understanding
spec-
that we're not allowing the license to move forward. With
That's
this-
correct.
This is in suspension.
He would be in violation hereafter.
I think you should just move to table, and then the ordinance speaks for itself as to whether or not he's
Right.
operating
Very good.
Yep.
appropriately or not.
So the motion is originally stated, second is originally stated. Ms. Ricketts, we'll have the roll call vote.
Sikora?
Yes.
Torenzi?
Yes.
Cuddington?
Yes.
Sylvester?
Yes.
Calendino?
Yes.
O'Donnell?
Yes.
Dion?
Yes. Very good, motion carries. So, at this point, you won't have a license, but you're certainly welcome to go before the hearing officer and have your appeal. Okay, that's your only process, because council simply doesn't have enough information.
So that motion would require it to come back to council with additional information? for council to decide if they're denying it or granting the license.
Yeah, that's correct. So next time we meet, whether you order a special council session or you come in August, we would then be able to have that information that we could review and then vote on accepting or denying.
Correct.
That's the information you need to leave with.
In the meantime,
In the meantime, our detectives and officers will apprise the city, this body, of the findings, and then we can make an educated decision going forward.
he can continue operating,
You'd be in violation.
so I would need to
Mayor?
obtain some type
Linda?
of preliminary
Yes.
In the
injunction.
meantime, he could still sell items, but not
May not pawn,
purchase any
yeah.
as a pawn
Yeah,
shop,
you may not
correct,
pawn items, you
chief?
could sell, correct?
Is that correct?
So
Paul,
restrictions on sales, section 14-492 state, no entity or person, and it goes on to say, which is subject to the provisions of this article, unless the proper license is in effect, no pawnbroker, secondhand dealer, junk dealer shall purchase or receive and pawn any item or other articles or keep for sale any such articles or items unless a current effective license is in effect.
Okay. So then you could not sell.
You could do a special council meeting earlier if you need to.
Okay, and then if, you can request a special council session hereafter. I'll be in communication with you, but council will kind of have to decide when we meet with our chief and detective as to when that could be. We'll try and make that as accommodating as possible. Okay.
Do you understand? Well, and
All right,
then-
gentlemen, we're going to move on. Our decision's been rendered. If you're welcome to stay, or you can certainly leave.
Thank you.
Thank you. So next up, the Women's Life Community Flea Market request. This one should be a little bit easier. Again, sorry, folks, we've run into a couple things that we've tabled last time that are surfacing this time that are causing us to have to bring out these things up, but this on occasion does happen.
Good
So-
evening, Mayor and City Council members. I'm President Lynn Carnes with Women's Life Chapter 911.
I'm Lisa Damon, Women's 9/11.
And we are before you today to discuss a continuation of our flea market in the Jimmy John's Parking Lot A on August 24th and September 28th. My original letter to you was to ask for July 27th as well. However, that is Sterling Fest, so I'm thinking that it's probably not going to be the best time. So I am asking that for approval for August 24th and September 28th, with September 28th being a benefit of the Parks and Rec here in Utica. So the responses from June's event that we did were very overwhelming, that everybody wanted us to do it again. We did net $1,400 to be able to help individuals, families, and nonprofits in their time of need in the community.
So I don't know if any council members made their way over there. I know Gus was over there and I went there as well. They had a nice turnout, several, how many participants did you have?
We had 62.
62?
It was supposed to rain that day, so 25 did not show up. They paid, but they did not show up, so bonus.
So yeah, it's a really nice gathering of folks, you know, just gives the market, like a flea market atmosphere, real nice, and they're gonna add some food perhaps this next time around, have some food trucks that they might choose to come out and just have some, you know, snacks for folks as they're perusing through the great deals.
We did also collect about 900 cans of non-perishable food items for Trinity Lutheran Church as well. So that was one of our community service projects that we did for June, July.
And Lynn, what are the hours on both dates?
From 8 to 3.
And you've worked out details with Jimmy John's Field already on this, right?
I
As far
have,
as the
yes.
parking concerns?
Season's over September 28th, and there's a 7:05 PM game on August 24th.
Yep.
Yes.
So there should be no
I have been instructed that I
contradictions?
have to be out by 4 o'clock. And I will tell you that Dana, COO, did come over at 3:49 on the June thing and said, "Where were you?" I said, "You told me I had to be out of here by 4." So she's like, "I didn't expect you to be." So very, very positive.
Well, it seems like it's a really good event for the community, and you're kind enough to think about our Parks and Rec department.
Absolutely. I'm a Utica resident. So.
Yes, ma'am.
And then one of the other things is I would like to seek approval to put up 12 signs, temporary, the Monday before our event, which would be August 19th.
And these are like
Just
Yard-
signs that
yard-
say
yard
Community
sign.
Flea Market, Jimmy John's Parking Lot A, and then this Saturday.
These are yard signs?
Yes.
Okay, campaign sign style.
And they will be taken down
And-
either Saturday or Sunday morning.
And they'd be put where typically? Are they
I've
going on
got,
city property or in the right of ways?
I've got four corners of Hall and Van Dyke, Canal and Van Dyke, Auburn and Cass, Hahn and Van Dyke, Utica and Dobry, Cass and Hahn, Shelby and 21, 21 and Van Dyke, and then Canal and Clinton River.
And have you talked to the property owners, the residents of those?
They're pretty, I mean, they're like city-owned
in
sites.
the right of ways?
Yeah.
Okay. So, any discussion, council? I guess
No,
first we'd require a motion.
No,
before-
actually, discussion, I had the opportunity to call in because I was just curious as to what was going on. I missed the last one, and we had a really nice conversation, so thank you, Lynn. And I'm pretty excited for you. I think it's going to be great.
Thank you.
I'll make a motion that we approve her request as asked.
Support.
It's been moved by Ms. Terenzi, supported by Mr. Cudington. Any discussion on the matter?
I would just be concerned about the signs. Is there any input on that, Beth?
Just the two signs on 21
not
Mile
Shelby.
Road, that's
Thank you,
not our
that's not
Shelby
jurisdiction.
Township.
That's not-
Gotta ask
okay.
Shelby.
Alrighty.
Did you do those last time?
No.
No, I did not. I only put out 6 signs without approval, sorry. Rather ask for forgiveness. But I did put them out
President.
Friday. I put them out Friday after 5, so,
Following precedent.
but I did take them down also.
So everybody went home.
Any further discussion? No. It's been moved, it's been supported. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Very good. Thank you, Ms. Lenz.
Thank you,
Motion
Lynn. Good
carries.
luck.
Thank you.
Next up
Hope
is our
to see you all there.
Utica High School chieftains here tonight from the city, from the student council body. Is that correct? You guys are all student council members?
Yes.
And you guys came here before for 11th, are you guys 11th graders?
We're all seniors.
Did you guys come here before for Student Government Day?
I don't recognize
Wow, you missed out. Yeah, you would have seen a version of this. So if one or two representatives like to make their way to the podium and introduce themselves and tell us the purpose of your visit.
Good evening, I'm Ryan John. I'm a senior at Utica High School.
I'm Megan Walker, I'm also a senior, and we are here on behalf of the whole body of Utica to request permission for our annual homecoming parade.
This would entail Utica Student Council organizing and helping out the floats, organizing the parade and getting it to where it needs to be. And it would be on September 27th, Friday, and it would begin preparation around 2 o'clock at the Jimmy John's parking lot, and it would begin from the parking lot at about 4 o'clock, and at 5 o'clock it would end at Utica High School.
Very good. Well, I know I've been watching that parade since I was a little kid. I grew up in Lincoln Meadows subdivision many, many years ago, and I've always enjoyed it. It's always been a really good time. Council, any questions for the team? All right. Then it would require a motion to approve the parade request.
So moved.
Support.
Moved by Sikora, moved by Mr. Calandrino, supported by Mr. Sikora. Any further discussion? All right. You know that the city attorney and myself are both Utica alumni, right? Any other Utica alumni here?
Stevenson.
Sorry about your loss. Sorry about your loss of those football games.
Yeah, well, that was very common.
So, it's been moved, it's been supported. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Very good, motion carries. Thank you, student council.
Thank you very much.
Good luck with everything.
Have a good summer.
You too.
So next we have our annual Glow Run road closure request.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, and everybody, members of the City Council and Chief Cody. We're back for our third time for a request to, on September 14th, to close Auburn Road in both directions in front of Jimmy John's Park, just before the Riverbends Trail, from basically 7:30 to 8, and then open up the eastbound half, or I should just say keep the westbound half closed as the runners return back into Jimmy John's Park.
Yes, sir.
Everything
Same-
else is exactly the same.
Same format.
Everything's the
Chief,
same.
any concern with previous incidents that would lead us to have any thoughts otherwise?
What day is the 14th?
Saturday.
It is Saturday. Yeah, this has been pretty much a non-issue with our police department. We've gone out there and the police officers enjoyed the conversation with a lot of participants and so forth. And it's gone off without any incidents whatsoever. It's a well-organized event and usually takes up just very little of our resources.
So, and you're it's continuing to grow. How many runners would you anticipate this year?
Well, we're looking somewhere between about 700 runners, and typically, at this point, we're probably going to have about 100 to 150 volunteers as well. So there'll be close to 1,000 people here downtown.
And who's the benefactor?
The Cassie Hines Shoes Cancer Foundation, which essentially we assist young adults aged 16 to 39 who are been diagnosed with cancer, connect them to peer support through a whole variety of ways, send them to camps through things like Gilda's Club. We're in every single hospital in the state of Michigan, so anytime somebody's diagnosed with cancer in that age group, they receive an info bag which connects them directly to us so that we can help point them in the right direction as they work through survivorship.
That's great work.
If you're not familiar, if I'm not mistaken, this is in the namesake of your daughter,
It is indeed.
and it has been a wonderful organization.
Well, we're fortunate that you picked our town to do this in.
It's an awesome place, and we hope to continue to grow in it.
And so, council would require a motion to approve.
I move that we approve the annual Glow Run.
Support. It's moved by Mr. Calagino, supported by Mr. O'Donnell. Any discussion on the matter? Very good. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Very good. Motion carries. Thank you, sir.
Thank you
Good
very
luck
much.
with the run.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
I think some of the council members are going to sign up for it, right, Chuck?
Don't look at me.
Yeah, no kidding, I don't run.
To me,
All right.
right, Chuck?
Moving on forward, we have the mayor's report. I'll start off with the Bark in the Park. It was a nice, very nice, well-attended event. We had hundreds and hundreds of people that came out and brought their dogs. Everyone was really enjoying their time there. There was no incidents to report. And we were able to have a statue carved out of an oak tree that was a dead oak tree by Joe Jakubowski and Sons. And I'll tell you, they came in $1,500 less than the competition. So they did a great job. And Mr. Jeff Wolf of Finesse Ice was the artist that carved the dead tree into a beautiful sculpture of a dog. And I don't know, I haven't been over there yet, but I think the final touches are just about done. They've done a great job over there for us, and he gave us a really reasonable rate. And these costs were supported by the Parks and Rec Commission. Going forward, the fun stuff we want to talk about here is the doubling of the water rates. Most people have heard by either online sources or by our letter that we sent out that water rates are going to double. And just to put everyone on notice that the city of Utica has appreciated deficit in their water rates. Rates had not been raised since 2012, and they should have been raised incrementally. It was the case that years back, again, incremental increases were not made, so the city saw a deficit ultimately paying the burden of the water through the general fund. Well, the state of Michigan has determined that we need to correct this by way of a water deficit elimination plan. And in doing so, we need to raise the rates, not just the point where we need to bring them to where they are correct and justified in their current rate so they match where we should be. They also need to affect where we need to go to reduce the deficit that we had, roughly $500,000. We have looked at different methodologies of trying to eliminate this without having the residents feel real hip. What we have done though is we have issued what's known as a ready-to-serve charge, and that ready-to-serve charge is going to serve as residents a nominal fee, which gets the water at the tap and allows you to have the sewer availability. But then you will start being charged for water that you actually use as it comes into the house, rather than a minimum rate fee, which used to be 9,000 gallons for about $86. We've made some adjustments. Some people will actually see a reduction in their water rates. And just by comparison, I'll give you mine. I use about 11,000 gallons a quarter, which that cost me about $116 last month. Going forward, if I were to use the same amount of water, my rate's going to be about $90 a quarter increase, which is $1 per day increase. And that right there, the difference will cover eventually where we need to be with our rates and also help eliminate that debt. There's been talks about using senior housing funds that if and when the building sells, which the purchase agreement is being signed today, so that's going to come to fruition. However, we can't count money that we don't have in the bank until we actually have it. But having said that too, speaking of Mr. Paternoster, the city benefits best by funding up some of our unfunded liabilities by putting those dollars into the pensions and long-term debt. That would serve the residents better after the equation's been worked out. It works that the city's better served to have the long debt paid down first. So that determination's been made. We did have some very lengthy discussions in council. We had a work session where we have determined the root of the concern, and we've had meetings reference it, and there has been corrective action taken, and there's been plans in place to assure that this won't happen again. So if there's nothing further for the mayor's report, I will turn it over to council reports. Mr. Calandrino has an item on the agenda.
Yeah, I have two quick points. Mr. Merrill at the water work session
I'm sorry.
asked,
Gus, I'm sorry, I apologize to interrupt.
Sure,
There was
sure.
one concern. The neighboring municipalities. So council, we do sell water and provide sewer service to Shelby Township on the borders, right? On the north end and on the north end, well, pretty much the north property line and to areas in Sterling Heights as well. My concern, and it was brought up, and I think council needs to be made aware, and I'm sure you are, that we do charge double for a particular reason to these other communities that we service on their water and sewer. And they've come before council in the past and said, I paid double the water because I'm a Shelby resident. I never thought that practice was quite fair, but in talking with the supervisor from Shelby Township, they were not inclined to immediately change because they also charge our residents double if we are on the Shelby border that is serviced by Shelby Water and Sewer. Looking at the folks that live just to the north of us in the new development there, if our water rates were to increase by twice, theirs would be hit by 4 times, which to me seems really unfair, and I don't think we should, in my personal opinion, I think there should be some forgiveness. I think it'd be unfair to charge those people 4 times the rate for water for a shortfall that's happened that was primarily the fault of this city, ultimately going back several years, since 2012. Yes, sir.
I agree with what you just said, and it's been a practice on, and it used to be, well, we ran a line further out, there's nobody else servicing, we still have to maintain that line. I think where you're going at it is to look into getting rid of that double fee, but it has to be a reciprocal arrangement between, if it's Shelby, Sterling, whoever we interact with, if they charge any of our residents double, that has to be changed. In return, we charge their residents double.
Yeah, and that's the conversation I had with Mr. Stathakis, and he wasn't quite right at the time to do that, and I can't remember what the actual, it was in the first month I took office in 2017, because I became aware of that, and it was something I thought was crucial for our residents to not have to pay double because they live in Utica, yet they have Utica or Shelby water, and vice versa for our Shelby residents.
I'll go to a Shelby city council meeting, I got no problem doing it.
Oh, I know. So the point is, my concern is, what if Shelby doesn't say, sorry guys, it doesn't, or they say it doesn't work for us. I want to be the bigger community, say, I'm sorry that you don't agree with us, and I hope they will. I'm not talking ill of the least, but if they don't, in my mind, say that's the right thing, at least maybe we should do the right thing. And, I don't think we should try to balance the books of the water deficit elimination program on the backs of Shelby Township people who just happen to be in a really great, they got second choice where they could live. Maybe they move, Utica was the best, they picked second best. Right?
But
I would encourage them to move to Utica.
I think Mr. Calandrino's idea of showing up at a council meeting, which I'll gladly go, I think if most of Utica's council showed up at a council meeting to express this concern, let's face it, political pressure can mean a lot. If we say, look, we're willing to be the forefront, we will drop but we're also asking then for you to help our residents. Now, is it worth it to help your residents and ours at the same time?
I think that's a valid.
I think there could be enough pressure put on that way publicly that.
The cameras are rolling, right?
So, I think I better make a phone call first. So council, I would like the consideration at this point to at least not quadruple the rates for the Shelby residents, if that'd be something we could entertain today, to give them equal consideration as a Utica neighbor here, and by being a good neighbor, not doubling their current rate. Oh, yeah. Mr. Paternoster? Would that require the deficit elimination plan to be recalculated?
No, sir.
Okay.
The double rates charged to Shelby Township were not a factor of the calculation.
Okay. So I think it's unfair practice to our neighbors.
Beth had something.
Oh, Ms. Ricketts?
You need to include Sterling, we do have a few.
Oh, yeah, Sterling Heights too, I'm sorry, I did say that, I snuck that in there one time. But yeah, Sterling Heights as well along Kemp Street.
There's not
So-
very many.
So is it something we can waive for this first quarter and then talk to
Gives us
the
time,
people we need to talk to and during that period and say, we'd like this to be changed on your end within the next billing cycle?
So, yeah,
So-
that's a great idea.
I think that's a good idea.
So I would make a motion to suspend.
Really quick, really, but
I'm
just
sorry.
super quick. So just so I'm completely clear, we charge these essentially people outside of the city double, but our responsibilities are exactly the same. We're maintaining the pipes, we're selling them the water. Really, it's not like we're providing a service that Sterling Heights or Shelby Township should. We're just providing a service to someone outside the city. They don't vote for us, so someone at some point doubled their rates.
Yeah, I don't know the whole history, I know there's some,
Oh, yeah,
there's quite a bit to it though.
That's conjecture, but, so I just want to understand, I want to make sure that there's not, we're paying for something extra for these people, and we're not,
There was going back, and this was all done before I started 30 years ago, the idea of running water out to Lincoln Meadows. There was, except for really a few houses along Auburn Road, or Cass, then you had where we had the golf course. There was a long span of road that we paid to have the water mains put in, service that account and everything. So through a period of time, you could say there was a payback period to do it. Because if we would not have provided that water to those residents, they would not have had city water.
they'd have had
So,
septic, I'm sure, and.
There's something in there.
They could have had wells.
Yeah, I grew up in there.
So, there was some rationale for it. Can you say it's been paid for? Yes, but at the same time, you could say the system is now 30 years old, how long are the pipes gonna last? So, but I do understand some of the doubling. I would say there's a lot to entertain. The motion was to, or will be to, at least this first billing, this first quarter, to knock it to our rates.
Maybe give them equal consideration as the Utica resident.
For the first, so it allows us
quarter.
time, first quarter, I would,
Can't make a decision
don't make it
tonight.
forever.
Just first quarter.
Because we need to then address their governmental bodies to say, we need you to do the same consideration to our folks.
Ms. Ricketts, we put, for the next meeting, please, under unfinished business, to revisit this item, so that we don't forget? Okay, and then, so I will make a motion to suspend the practice of doubling the water rates for neighboring municipalities such as Sterling Heights and Shelby Township, that Utica, the city of Utica provides water and sewer, and give them the equal consideration as a Utica resident for this next billing cycle. Okay. Moved by Deanne, supported by by Mr. O'Donnell.
Close enough.
Had to own it. And then, any discussion, council?
Right.
Okay, we'll have a roll call vote, Ms. Ricketts.
Sikora?
Yes.
Torenzi?
Yes.
Cuttington?
Yes.
Sylvester?
Yes.
Calendino?
Yes.
O'Donnell?
Yes.
Deanne?
Yes. Very good, motion carries. Thank you, everyone. I think that's a big step in the right direction. Now, Mr. Calendino, with your council reports.
Yes, I just wanted to quickly touch on 2 points for the water and sewer process. At our work session, Mr. Merrill suggested that I put all of us put all of our ideas together and make them available to the public. So that's why they're appearing in the packet tonight. I also have some hard copies if anybody needs them after the meeting. These are just ideas at this time. I think, all of us should contribute ideas, including residents. I would like to see us form a water and sewer committee that would be comprised of some city people. I think Beth has institutional knowledge that would be very valuable, and probably a council member or two, and then any residents that are interested. I did reach out to a few of the residents that spoke up during the work session, and I got good feedback. I think there's interest there. So I don't know if that's a motion required type of thing, is it? So I would like to make, Beth's nodding yes. So I would like to make a motion that we form a water and sewer committee comprised of city people and residents.
I'll second that motion.
Okay.
Any discussion on it? Okay, and then, what would require, well, we have the motion, it's been moved by Sikora, I'm sorry. It's been moved by Calandrino, supported by Dion. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Very good, the motion carries. We'll develop the Water and Sewer Committee. Is it Mr. Merrill? Okay, would you like to be on that committee as well?
Absolutely.
Very good. So between you and Mr. Calandrino, maybe you guys can reach out and select any residents that might like to be on. If there's anyone here today that'd like to be on, just let Mr. Calandrino know your intentions, and we will find you a spot.
And we'll probably try to keep it at maybe 7 people total, I'm guessing, so.
But obviously, the people that care are here today.
And their purpose?
To create processes and procedures going forward to how we handle our water and sewer, so we don't get in the same predicament that we're in right now.
I was informed that that was already taken care of, but it sounds like.
Well, nothing's been voted on yet.
Coverage won't hurt anything.
Right.
And the concept would limit, for practical purposes, you limit the members of the committee to a certain number. But then, as far as when they meet, to have those meetings be open and anybody can go
Absolutely.
ahead.
Yep.
Great. So we're all, yeah.
And I have another motion I'd like to make. I think this one doesn't even need to wait for committee recommendations. I'd like to make a motion that going forward from this point on, that water and sewer rates are adopted on an annual basis by city council, presented by by Phil, and adopted by city council on a vote, and that would be whether they're staying the same, whether they're raising, or whether they're lowering. Similar to the city budget, maybe even at the same time as the city budget. And I think that's vital, because that puts the power back into the residents' hands. They get to, in a public setting, hear, the rationale behind why rates are staying the same, going up, lowering, and they get to have input. And they also get to react to that, if they don't like what they see, their power of the vote is a very powerful thing.
Just for the timing, I'm just questioning, doing it to the budget would make us do it, but at the budget, we all know you're preparing, looking at numbers. Would it be better to stagger it on a, let's say, 6-month increment?
I think the rates right now are on the July 1st cycle, just like our budget. I know the rate increase,
Well,
went
these
into
rates,
effect.
what, because of the deficit elimination plan?
right,
So
we can
have to
change
vote
it. I mean, whatever you, did I make a motion already? Do I need to?
No, you're.
I'm just talking about my ideas,
You're
right?
making a hypothetical.
Yeah.
I'm just worried about, we have too much all that has to be done at one time, so
Maybe we should ask his advice on,
Phil,
90 days off.
when would be the best time to implement, have a meeting so that we could establish rates?
Well, the rates that are set by Great Lakes Water Authority and Macomb County Wastewater Disposal District usually are not forwarded to our office before March. So, we could have meetings prior to that, so that at least we know what our overall costs are going to be for the following year. The only thing we would have to adjust would be for the actual rates that those two parties were gonna charge us. Their rates go into effect July 1st, which is why we have always adjusted our rates on the 1st of July as well.
I mean,
However, I take Councilman Sikora's point that trying to do it at the same time we're doing the budget will put a lot of strain on the city staff that are being asked to work on the committee.
Would early second quarter, like maybe April, would that interfere with your planning for the budget? Like maybe if we had it at the April meeting to go into effect in July?
well, it seems like that's too long of a,
I would say we
No, you
need
get
to start
August.
working on it by December and then finalize it after we get the final rates from Great Lakes.
okay.
And then we can present it at budget time. We'll work on it well ahead of time, present it at budget time, adopt it July
Present in
1st.
April, yeah.
Yes, again, Mr. Paternoss is saying we usually aren't gonna get the rates till sometime in March. So then it gives us a little bit of time to calculate, we'll have it presented, but we'll already know our fixed costs and everything else up to that point.
I didn't get the county rates, the wastewater rates until April this year.
Okay.
All right.
So it gives us some flex time.
So Mr. Calandrino's motion, if I'm not mistaken, is going to be to adopt a policy where we have water rates considered and presented on a yearly basis.
Yes.
I support that.
Okay. It's been moved by Calandrino, it's been supported by Ms. Terenzi. Any discussion on the matter? In that case, Ms. Ricketts, will have the roll call vote, please.
Sikora?
Yes.
Torenzi?
Yes.
Cuttington?
Yes.
Sylvester?
Yes.
Calendino?
Yes,
O'Donnell?
Yes.
Deanne?
Yes, very good, the motion carries, thank you.
and that's all, thank you.
So, moving forward, the planning commission, the planners had nothing on the agenda tonight, so they did not come out. Assessing, Ms. Ricketts, Mr. Aguirre has some new hours.
Oh, yes, right. He's still working Tuesday and Thursdays, but he switched his hours to the mornings, 8:30 to 11:30, as he has retired from the city of Warren. And he's now all ours. Congratulations, Tom, on your retirement.
Very good. Mr. Hicks, anything to report, sir?
No, sir.
Thank you. Ms. Daggy, I know I told you I was going to put you earlier, but I lied to you. I didn't mean to. I wanted to put you early and get you out on the way home, but I had forgotten, and not about you. I forgot to call you.
That's okay. I learned a lot tonight, so that's always good. Thank you, Mayor and Council. The library is midway through its summer reading program, which is just going great, so I wanted to report on that. Today, we had our slime program, and we were absolutely packed with kids making slime, which, of course, what else would they want to make, you know? So the program was so popular, we did in fact have to turn people away. We do require registration for all of the craft programs and the programs that are coming in, like the Bubble Man, and the registration was full as of yesterday, and unfortunately, people who did just show up, we had to turn them away simply because we could not hold the number of people that were there, you know, nor have supplies. So we're sorry about that, but we're very, very happy it was well attended. The rest of our programs and craft programs are booked full now for the rest of the summer. So they're really, unless someone were to cancel, and so people are always welcome to call and see if there's been a cancellation. But we do have some things that don't require registration. So I want to point out we've still got 2 sessions of our the Pause for Reading program. One is this Thursday morning at 11, and one is the 25th at 11. Now, that's where the kids can come in and read to therapy dogs, which is, it's a wonderful program. And if kids don't want to read, they can just pet the dog. That's fine, you know. So it's just, we found, research has found that when children are reading to dogs, because dogs are non-judgmental, and they love you, you know, they just love you. So that it's very good for children, especially if children are a little shy about reading or having a little trouble. They feel very accepted when they're reading to a dog, you know, and it is wonderful. And even if they aren't having any trouble reading, I mean, who doesn't love to pet a golden retriever? I mean, come on. They're big and they would love you to death. So, and then next Thursday on the 18th, we're showing Dumbo at the library. So once again, that's the new Dumbo, not the old Dumbo, but the most recent version. So we'll have that at 11 o'clock at the library, and there is no reservation required for that. And that's all I have. Any questions? Oh, I'm sorry, I do have one more thing, if I can. Poetry reading is this month as well. So that's coming up on the 22nd, which is a Monday, and it will be at 7 o'clock. I'm sorry, Mr. Cunnington.
Yeah, just a quick question.
Sure.
It has nothing to do with your reading program. Have you spoke to Mr. Lang about getting those steps fixed?
I'm working, those steps right now, DPW cannot do anything with them. So we're working to get, what's happened is the concrete that is underneath those bricks is the same kind of concrete that's on Van Dyke that's crumbling. And it has crumbled and crumbled and crumbled to the point that DPW can no longer get those bricks to stick. So I am in the process of getting a concrete gentleman out to see if we can at least replace the bricks, the concrete blocks that are underneath, that we're going to have to do something like that. So, yeah, I know it's an eyesore.
Well,
and
it's not so much that is, I'm worried more somebody's going to trip.
And that as well. And we're worried about that as well.
Sure.
And it's just a matter of getting somebody to actually come out and look at them, and, but thank you for asking.
Thank you.
Anything
I
else?
do have one question.
Oh, yeah.
How is the adult reading program going?
The adult reading program's going pretty well. It's a little slow because it's new, but we do have about 5 or 6 people that are doing, this is the Read the Book, Watch the Movie program. The teens are really enjoying that part of it, so they've kind of embraced it more. But we didn't do a huge push on it this year. We just kind of like rolled it into the summer, so just to see how it was going. So next year, we'll probably do it again, and we'll just push it more and advertise it more. That program doesn't really end until almost the end of August because there's more involved with reading the book and watching the movie, so, but the people who are doing it are enjoying it. They like the idea of it. So that's working well.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Ms. Daggy, thank you so much, and
Thank
thanks for finding that difficult book for me to find.
Oh, you're very
Appreciate that.
welcome. Our pleasure.
So,
Thank you.
Chief Wilczek is out of town this evening. Chief Cody, anything to add, sir?
I do. I just want to thank everybody for the warm welcome of our new employee. We're looking forward to seeing him thrive in his new position. One of the things I would like to put out to our residents, it is the summer season, and if anybody has vacations planned, don't hesitate to contact the local police. Let us know what your times of vacation are going to be, who has access to your home, cars in the driveway, that kind of thing. I can be contacted directly, or they can send me an email with that information. We have Sergeant Kaluzny that also can take that information down, so we have some extra checks on your property, or if they have any questions regarding some things. I've been receiving a number of emails from residents and that kind of thing, so it is a good opportunity to get a hold of me with questions that they don't want to call the police about. So again, feel free to reach out if they have anything or any concerns with the police department.
All right, thank you, Chief. And Mr. Lang was busy working on a pump, what do they call it? What type of pump?
Lift station?
A lift station pump. And he finished quite late in the process, and we did not want him in here during that process. It would be very unpleasant, given the work conditions. So he has to be dismissed because he needed to go home and get cleaned up. So they've been out there all day. Mr. Paternoster, nothing to report, as it turns out. Administration.
No, he's got 2 things
Oh, I'm
on the
sorry.
table.
I'm sorry, Mr. Paternoster, sir.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. First off, for the viewing audience back at home, we had some technical difficulties with the recording system at the beginning of the meeting, so the first few minutes were not broadcast, and we have one camera that's not working tonight for some reason. On the council table, I put 2 requests. The first one is a request for authorization to engage the services of CBIZ Retirement Plan Services for the fiscal year 2019 OPEB actuarial valuation. That's other post-employment benefits. Evaluation is required by Governmental Accounting Standards Board Statement Number 75 and by the 2017 Public Act 202. The last actuarial valuation was performed a year ago. GASB Statement 75 does allow for valuations every other year with a roll forward in the off year. However, PA 202 takes effect with the fiscal year ended June 30, 2019 and requires additional work. And in order to do that properly, I believe it's best that we have the full valuation done instead of just a roll forward. Also, if we do a roll forward, we don't get the annual contribution rates for the fiscal year 2021. If we wait until the end of fiscal year 2020 to get the full valuation, we'll already be into a new fiscal year before we have the contribution rates, which we would need for budgeting purposes. So it's my recommendation that we go ahead with the full valuation. CBiz has been providing this service since 2016. I had budgeted the sum of $5,000 for this service. Their proposal is in excess of that by $500 because of the additional work required under PA 202. I don't have an argument for that $500. I would ask that council authorize it and amend the fiscal year 2020 budget by the $500 to cover the additional cost. If council wishes, I could certainly reach back out to CBiz and ask them what they would charge for just a roll forward, but again, I don't think the roll forward is the appropriate way to go.
Do we bid this out, Phil?
We did not bid this out this year. Typically, valuations are not bid out on an annual basis because of the amount of work that goes into the first year of valuations. And so when an actuarial firm is having to start from scratch, there's a lot of upfront labor, and their costs generally are much higher in the first year.
I would suggest we ask them to remove the $500, or in the future, we're going to start bidding it out.
Certainly, I can do that.
That's what we budgeted, right?
I will say that under PA 202, we will be required to either have a peer review of the actuary once every 8 years, or change actuaries. Now, this is only our, 16, 17, our fourth year.
You said eight, after 8?
After 8 years. This is our fourth year with this actuary. And the original, the first year, the charge was $5,200 in 2016. Last year, they did a full valuation, but because they had prior year history, it was only, I believe, $4,500.
I think it's definitely worth a phone call. We've done that on DDA
Yep.
multiple times and with very good results. I would suggest we say, we would like you to remove the $500 fee, or we're going to be forced to bid this out, in the upcoming year.
Okay.
What would the cost be if we were to bid it out? You were just saying.
Well, I don't know what it would come in. Let me go back to the last time we bid it out.
But what I heard you say, and my mind's going, but what I heard you say is that it may be expensive because they're starting from scratch.
said 5,200, I think he said.
Where CBiz has our information already.
Sure.
Is
So,
that correct? Did I hear that correctly?
yes.
Okay.
Of course, it's always possible that CBiz would come in the low bidder anyway, because they already have that upfront cost taken care of. They already have most of our census data. It's just a matter of updating rates and a few employees who
I'm sure the
were
tactic
added.
will be, we're tight on money, is there some way you can look at the $500 increase and do something with it? Again, there are not as many actuarial firms as there are donut shops, so
You'd be surprised, though. It's worked with us on the DDA multiple
it
times.
depends on what practice you're trying to do. I'm not saying we don't ask for some consideration. If they split the cost or did something, it's better, and again, but we based our number on.
Anytime we have
Yes.
to adjust the general fund, I'm going to say we need to make at least one phone call.
Oh, I'm not
Okay.
saying no.
Guaranteed.
Okay, that's
I'm-
fair.
Well, do we give Mr. Paternoster the authority to authorize the $5,500, yet seek to have it reduced? So
I
we
think
don't-
that's fair. yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
So, okay, and Phil, you're looking for a motion tonight for that?
Yes, sir.
Okay, it does require a motion.
I'll make a motion to, I'm gonna say, enter into the contract with CBiz. The stated price from CBiz is $5,500, but we will ask if there's some consideration for the last $500 increase. But you do have the authority to pay up to $5,500.
Seconded. So moved by Mr. Sikora, supported by Dion. Any discussion on the matter? Okay. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Very good.
Thank you.
Mr. Paternoster.
The second item is a request for authorization to transfer from the Senior Housing Operating Fund to the General Fund the sum of $60,220 to eliminate the interfund debt that the senior housing has been carrying since 2014. It was intended to do that last fiscal year, but
What was that
time got
exact
away
amount
with me
again? I'm
again. The
sorry.
$60,220, the Senior Housing Operating Fund has accumulated sufficient fund balance now to where they can afford to make that payment.
I will make that motion that we transfer the money from senior housing, $60,220 of the money that we loaned them in 2012 and 2014.
I'll support.
Moved by Ms. Terenzi, supported by Mr. Calandrino. Any discussion on the matter? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Very good, motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Paternoster. Anything further?
Nothing further.
All right, Ms. Ricketts from the clerk's office.
Yes, Mayor and Council, we have our annual Michigan Municipal League membership renewal invoice, of course, with all the services that they offer. I highly recommend renewing our membership with the MML.
I'll make a motion to renew our membership with the Michigan Municipal League at a cost of $3,251.
Support.
Oh, there we go.
It's been moved by Sikora and was supported by Mr. Sylvester, I believe.
One of us, yeah.
Okay, very good. Any discussion on the matter?
No.
Very good. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries, thank you. Oh, all those opposed? Good. Motion carries, thank you. Next, MML Workers' Compensation Fund Board election.
Yes, enclosed in your packet was the ballot for the Board of Trustees election. 3 trustees are seeking re-election, so of course they're asking you to vote for them.
Very
I'll
good.
make a motion to re-elect those 3 that are rerunning.
Devin, Adam, and David.
It's been
I'll
moved by-
support.
It's been moved by Mr. Sikora, it's been supported by Ms. Terenzi. Any discussion on the matter? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Very good, thank you. Motion carries. Thank you, Ms. Ricketts.
My next is city project permit fee partial waiver request. We do have some city projects that require building, electrical, mechanical, plumbing permits. I am requesting that we waive the administration fee and part of the permit fee, only paying the actual inspector fee on any city permits, because otherwise we're just taking it out of one pot and putting it in the other.
It'd be the case,
Our portion of the.
it'd be the case, for example, in
We
Pioneer
still
Park.
need to issue ourselves a permit so that we have it on record that that project was inspected. I'm just requesting to waive any city portion of those permits, that portion of the fee.
For example, like in Pioneer Park, where the contractors or the city would pull a permit, we won't charge ourselves or the contractor the permit fee because they're working for us. They would just only be charged the fee to pay the inspector to do the job.
Makes sense. I'm gonna make a motion to do that.
Support.
It's been moved by Sikora, it's been supported by Mr. Calandrino. Any discussion on the matter? Very good. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Very good, thank you. The motion carries. And next, the Metro Act attorney.
Our long-term attorney, Neil Lato, has retired. Has, over the years, totally handled all of our Metro Act, which is the small wireless communication facilities. When I get a Metro Act permit request in, the packet is about that thick that they have to review and either recommend or deny approval for us. Since he is retiring, my request is to appoint Mike Watsaw as our attorney for any Metro Act attorney work. That's all, it's specific to that because there is so much knowledge that he is specific with.
I'll make a motion upon the city clerk's recommendation to enter into agreements with Mike Watsa to review all our Metro Act agreements.
Support.
It's been moved by Mr. Sikora, it's been supported by Ms. Terenzi. Any discussion on the matter? Okay, very good. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Very good, the motion carries. Thank you, Ms. Ricketts. Nothing further?
No, just a reminder that July 20th and 21st is our Appetite for Arts Kid Fest. You should have seen the billboard up. Our ads are, our A-frames are up, some of our banners should be up. And anybody that would like to volunteer in helping watch children in the bounce houses for an hour or two, please contact City Hall.
Or if you have kids that need community service hours, we could get that for their hours as well. And, and then, as well, that will be at Grant Park this year. Be a very nice event, and we have sponsorship opportunities if anyone would like to get involved as well. Going forward from that, the Downtown Development Authority, nothing really to report today, but the Wendy Popko is in the process of painting the wall at the WeatherTech Authority, the WeatherTech building, and she's doing a great job over there. If you get a chance, pop in and see her. We're gonna be doing a timeline photo showing the progress of how she's doing each day, and she's doing a really great job over there. We are, also, the DDA is looking to get into more mural producing on other buildings. Again, it won't be buildings that have, it'll only be buildings that are currently painted. There won't be any fresh brick or any, there will be no fresh paint put on old brick, I guess what I should say. So there won't be anything on the city that's defaced that can't be just simply rolled over with a new paintbrush if we need to. So, Parks and Rec Commission has been the recipient of $1,000 donation through anonymous donors and also through Mr. McGrail. He had passed away, as you know, Linda's dad, and at the funeral services, they had requested that anyone wanted to come forward and make donations in his name that would be given to the Utica Parks and Rec. So again, the McGrail family continuing to give to the city, and this time in the name of the Utica Parks and Rec Commission, which is a donation total of $1,000. So it's been very generous, and thank you so much, Linda, for sharing your dad with the city of Utica. Historic District Commission, nothing to report. Ms. McGrail-Ballou, anything to report from the city attorney's office?
Nothing from the city attorney's office, but I do just want to thank everyone for their love and support over the last week and, remembering my father who just loved this city. Sorry.
All right. So we have next our Senior Housing Steering Committee. There's nothing to report. And then bills payable. Council, the bills have been presented to you. At this time, we would require a motion to go ahead and pay the bills as presented.
So moved.
It's been moved by Mr. O'Donnell, supported by Mr. Calandrino. Any discussion on the bills? Was that you?
No.
I'm sorry, I thought I heard Mr. O'Donnell first.
It doesn't matter.
Okay, Ms. Ricketts, undo it. It has been moved by Ms.
It doesn't matter.
Terenzi, and it's been supported by Mr. Calandrino. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Very good. We're going to pay the bills. Thank you. Communications from the public. Are there any members here tonight in the audience that would like to address council? Make your way to the podium, please. Just offer us your name and your address.
Hello, council. Michael Cantrell, longtime Utica resident, Russell Street, 11075. Just wanted to address the sidewalk infrastructure along Van Dyke. It's really bad. Crumbled holes, gravel, and also Han going west, crossing Van Dyke, the walk light doesn't work. And I noticed that yesterday. And I know that's a highly traveled area for the kids. I know school's out right now, but it still travels
It's the
pretty
white-
high.
It's like the white.
The
light
walk
for the
sign is
walking
out,
person?
correct, yeah. When it changes, it just stays dark, so, and that's going west. So when you're crossing, going towards downtown. But, yeah, I just wanted to see if anybody had any ideas, if there was anything that can be done, like a street sweeper would even help, because it's so gravelly, it's like a dirt road.
Right on Van Dyke.
Van Dyke
Oh,
all the way
sidewalks.
up until almost Madeline. What do you think? Like our road, Russell, probably maybe just a little bit past Russell? It's like every
So it's
business.
the actual sidewalks themselves, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so the businesses are responsible for maintaining their sidewalks.
horrible.
However, in the downtown area, the DDA does take some initiative in working with that. I'm wondering if we have the ability, maybe in our DPW, we could have the guys, I don't know if we have one of those rotating brush things.
But I fear that when you do that, you're gonna expose holes.
Yeah.
Because at the entrance of the businesses, you know, you have the sidewalk and then it dips down
Yeah.
for the actual entrance. That is so holed up. And I fear that if you do take the gravel out, it's just gonna expose the holes worse. So I don't know what
We
you
do have-
do
We are
to,
working on a sidewalk
to
plan.
do that,
We are working
yeah.
on a plan to replace sidewalks in the city. Mr. Lang's working on that right now. So in the short term, do you propose a short-term fix?
I may be the street sweeper, but I fear, as I said, that
Yeah.
a short-term fix may expose bigger issues, so I'm not sure.
And I know
if that's
you're a
the route to
skateboarder, you
go.
skateboard like.
I do, yeah, but
80
that's
miles
not
per hour
the-
past my place. I know, but
Yeah.
you are a customer of the sidewalks.
Absolutely, yeah,
Other
but
people
I'm-
walk
I mean,
on them,
I'm-
they're not really bothered by it, but you're a sidewalk.
Mm-hmm.
You're a skateboard there, so it's important that you are afforded the same opportunity of safety as someone that's either riding a bike or walking.
Yeah.
So we have to cater to all uses of it. So we can certainly look into it. Now, there's a couple places where we did put down some cold patch.
We actually noticed that downtown. The downtown sidewalks are very nice.
Yeah,
It's
so-
actually, Van Dyke is so bad.
So it's more the pitting, not so much the lifting.
Where's a good place to go look to get a good reference?
I would say the BP that you talked about when the council started, by that church, by Trinity Church, that entrance right
On
there
Van
might be
Dyke?
the worst one,
On the
yeah.
same side there? Okay.
Yeah,
It's
and
pretty bad right outside of like
it's,
Civic
and
Audio.
it carries every business. It's not just one business. And
Yeah.
it carries, like I said, maybe until Russell or just after Russell. And I think maybe that it doesn't because there isn't businesses that have high traffic there. They have bigger parking lots. So I don't know. I just wanted to bring it to attention because it is a really bad thing.
Yeah, well, it's valuable information. And I encourage if anyone's watching or even people in the audience, this is the kind of feedback that we don't get every day. So it's really valuable. I mean, people say, you are our elected officials, you should know these things, but we don't walk the sidewalks
Right.
every day. So if you have something, reach out to me, a complaint, reach out to the chief. If it's police matter, reach out to Mr. Hicks. If it's ordinance or, call me or email me, then we will certainly,
Sure.
find a way to make it better for you.
Mm-hmm.
So, all right,
Yeah.
Mr. Cantrell.
All right, thank you.
Anything else today?
Thank you for listening, yeah.
Thanks for taking the time to see us.
Yeah.
All right. So, Mr. Sunday.
Yeah, Mr. Sunday, John Sunday from 7863 Han. So I'm not really familiar with this process, so. In the beginning, when you asked if anyone had something to say, that's when had the opportunity to talk, if we knew what was going on, right? That's what that was?
On things that are listed on the agenda.
But yeah, I didn't grab one when I walked in, so forgive me. You'll hear my piece now. So then as things are going on through the council meeting, we're not really allowed to talk, right? That's the way it works?
Well, it's not so much that you're not allowed, it's, there's an order, and that order, in order to maintain the business portion of the meeting, we have to have some structure. But you can certainly speak on any one agenda item at the beginning if it's covered. So that way your voice can be heard by all members. And then anything off topic at the end of the meeting.
Right, but during when you guys say open for discussion, it's just for you guys, right?
Yes.
Okay, thanks. That clarifies it. So, going back to the beginning, so to touch on the building inspector to be paid, I find it highly disrespectful that you can't give the man pay for doing a job. I understand he's getting compensated. I'm a resident of the city, and I think anybody who has to do a job for anyone should get paid, period. I understand he's being compensated. I think he deserves a paycheck. It's just my opinion. So then, how do we keep up with the five-star pawn thing if we're interested? I mean, or is that not public record to be knowledgeable of?
Well,
I mean, he's a
it would
business
be-
in the city of Utica, pays his taxes, I'm assuming has been for 10 years, what's
Yeah,
that?
so the next-
He's
next
obviously
thing-
going to put him out of business, not you. He's putting himself out of business by breaking the law, if that's going to be the case. What if he's not? I mean, how do we know? I mean, how do we find out? How do we support the guy if he's not willfully wrong?
Well, he's beyond the point of suspicion, because.
Well, I don't know anything about it, so I'm just curious.
He was arrested in his business, and so there was something going on that maybe that, there's sometimes a difference between prosecution and suspicion.
I get it. I just don't know anything about it. I'm just wondering, is it, for residents, are we entitled to, is this public record, or is this something that,
Everything that happens here is public record.
okay, so how do we, I mean, do you guys, are you guys going to publish
We
something?
haven't seen it yet either.
Yeah,
to be
so,
honest.
I mean,
If I
like
may,
our-
what has happened is there was a police investigation involving them. I don't know the status of that, so I don't want to speak publicly about it.
Right, I got all that.
And I don't want to get the facts wrong either. Though, the information that they indicated in that, has compromised what we do, as I indicated, and that'll be clearly stated. As our city attorney also pointed out, the fact that he's not being charged doesn't mean there's anything wrong. There could be some kind of a deal where he's working with their authorities to negate his legal issues, right? So, once we can confirm that those reports are public information from those other investigating agencies, it'll be public information. And it would be my intention to bring forth to this council any issues that we've had and to collect whatever information we can from those other agencies.
Okay, so it'll become public knowledge.
Yeah, and essentially, as soon as we know, I believe, Beth, when you send us our council packets, you post it online at the exact same time, right? Pretty close?
Yes, anything anything in the city council packet is public information.
I just want to clarify, though, anything with police information in it and that kind of thing has to go through freedom of information and also has to be redacted, as you indicated.
Okay.
Do we have to make a Freedom of Information Act request to look at those items?
You would, and any report that's not of our department, you'd have to go through that department to request that.
So in the case of this gentleman, he would have to make a request to the Canton Police Department once it's available under the Freedom of Information Act, and then he would also need to make the same request to you for any information you have obtained.
Correct.
So it would not just be go to the Utica City website and there's it all laid out.
Correct, yes.
So there's some paperwork.
So it's most likely gonna be up to you guys to decide whether or not that guy continues to pay taxes in Utica.
Ultimately, it is up to him to do business correctly, so you can
Oh, no, I
continue to pay
agree,
taxes.
but I just hate to see anybody, us lose money as our city is falling into losing money.
Well,
Yep.
wouldn't
Period.
you rather see a business go into that location that was not breaking the law?
Absolutely.
Because there's victims associated with this.
Like I said, I don't know anything about the case, and I'm not trying to, whatever. I was just curious, would like to know if it's gonna go out of business, I'm just curious, that's all.
It also might be he doesn't own the building, he's renting, so it wouldn't make a difference. We still get the taxes.
You're right. Like I said, once again, I don't know anything about it. I was just curious how we would follow up with it, and obviously, it's a lot of paperwork for me to follow up with it. The Parks and Rec, is there such a department? I mean, I know it's on paper there is, but, I mean, what does the Parks and Rec offer the city as a resident? Is there something that you guys offer?
It's a commission of residents typically, and.
Or is there
what they
any
do-
programs that are offered to the city on behalf of Parks and Rec Department?
There's not a department of
Can
Parks
I
and Rec.
answer?
Yeah,
I
please.
can answer that.
Yes, please.
Our Park and Rec is a commission. That service that they provide is we provide playscapes in Grand Park. We purchase those. We put on the art festival. We put on the car show. We put on the Easter egg hunt. I don't know what else. Anyway, off the top of
Those
my
type
head.
of things.
Any Park and Rec programs are run through Shelby Township. Utica residents can take advantage of any Shelby Township programs at the Shelby Township resident rate. That is part of our 425 agreement. But we do not have a Park and Rec department. We have a commission that runs some events and does fundraisers to purchase park equipment or park improvements.
So if my children want to play baseball for Shelby, I should be paying the Shelby rates,
Correct.
not the non-public rates that anyone in the world
Correct. You
plays?
should not be paying the non-resident rate. You should
Okay.
be paying the resident rate.
Okay.
Yeah, my kid played in Shelby the whole time, baseball.
Yeah, I just never knew to say, hey, give me my discount.
And you should get that
It
thing in
should
the
have been
mail, too.
assumed already, to tell you the truth.
What's that?
Shelby Park and Rec, they know real well that.
They
that
should
you're
have
Utica resident.
given you the deal.
It should have been assumed
They,
on their
you know,
part.
we should never assume anything, even though the Department of Parks and Rec in Shelby is a good friend of mine, and I still pay the full rate.
Wow.
Thank you very much.
You should pay the resident rate.
I should.
Yeah.
But I don't.
You will from now on.
You will now.
I will next spring season. I've already paid for
You're
summer
talking about
this
Joe
year.
Youngblood, right?
What's that?
Talking about Joe Youngblood?
Well, no, I know him too, but I'm good friends with Mike.
Okay. Yeah, any Utica resident is welcome to receive the same exact consideration as a Shelby resident and vice versa. when it
But you
comes
probably need to ask
using
for that
parks.
up front before you pay your bill. So if you just pay your bill,
Yeah.
you don't get a
Information is
discount.
valuable to know. They should have given you proper consideration.
Okay, that's good enough for tonight for me.
Thanks, Mr. Sundin.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right,
Dane
Mr. Adams.
Adams, 4544 Cass Avenue.
just like to say, I'm glad you guys passed the signs for the ballpark. I think it's a pride of the city. A lot of people that's come over known for it. I say, I'm from Utica. They say, where's that? I'm like, Jimmy John's Field. Oh, okay. And I just think that's going to be nice when we got something for it. So, and then also during the meeting it was mentioned that loopholes were closed, actions were taken for the water bill. Is any of that public information, the things that were done for that?
The processes are still ongoing, but the part that got us to where we are, there's, as you know, there was a lack of information giving to council. And so that information gap has been closed. And so now with the reporting of the annual rates, that's going to resolve that problem. Going forward, we are going to have a committee that will get together and obviously form ideas, share cooperative concerns with other municipalities as far as rates, what they're paying in their municipalities, and then be able to give feedback to council and residents together. So that's the preliminary, but that's not the end product. So there's still, again, we're only weeks away from having discovered this problem. So now once going, we've discovered it, now we're in the process of stopping the bleed, and now we're going to heal the wound.
You had also said corrective actions, or were there those, or were those public?
Well, as far as
funds getting moved from the general to another fund that they shouldn't be in and they should be separate from.
Yeah, so without being able to legally address all matters of personnel issues, because we are bound by the Open Meetings Act when it comes to executive session, and so legally, we can't share any personnel issues or matters, but we can simply tell you that the corrective actions have been taken, and further mistakes would be very unlikely.
Okay. And then I was looking on the city website, and you can probably tell me this, is the meeting rules and ordinances and stuff. Where can I find those?
For the
city council
ordinances?
meetings or the city ordinances?
Well, we should have city ordinances should be online.
City ordinances are, I believe, on there, but the city council, like,
the minutes?
not minutes, but just like,
He'd like to have the rules of how the
Yeah.
meeting functions.
yeah.
Like the Open Meetings Act?
Yeah.
Is that what you're talking
Yeah, I
about?
don't-
Michigan,
We have a process known as Robert's Rules. We are somewhat of a modified, we try to follow the best we can, but like even like this here, like asking questions, like this portion here, if we were maintaining complete accuracy, you would come up here and you would say your words and we just nod our head and say, yes, thank you.
Right.
But what we are doing is, because we're a small city, we allow people to ask questions and give feedback, because it would be really a disservice to our residents to say, just thank you after giving you your 3 minutes. So we are somewhat of a modified version of that, because again, we're a small city, we should be able to offer that to our residents. But outside of that, is that kind of what you're looking for?
I would just more saying like kind of like, Mr. Shane? Sunday, that's what it was. It's just, being able to speak up on things as they go through the meeting, or if there's a way to be able to input yourself into that ahead of
So
time.
the agenda's always printed, how many days ahead of time?
Fridays.
And it's always
Friday
subject,
afternoon.
it's always subject to change, because things come on last minute. But we print these things, and this way you can look here and you can say, this interests me, and then, so you can have a chance to come before council before the meeting starts and say, I'm really interested in what's going on with the five-star pond thing. I want to say my piece. And now, that's not the time to ask questions necessarily. It's a time to make statements, okay? So, by Robert's rules, we don't typically answer questions, what they typically don't. But we do, because this council wants to give back to the residents the best possible information, so we leave here, you have answers, not just, we heard you and thanks and goodbye. So, but everything's found online as far as the ordinance go, and the agenda is printed online well in advance.
Okay.
as far as ordering within the meeting and this, and like where it seems to be openings as far as where you can go ahead and participate, whether in the meeting itself or in the functions of government. I know it's, the mayor has provided, some avenues, and I know it seems really narrow. If you actually look at Robert's Rules of Order or any of these openings, if we were to follow by letter, it would be so soul-crushingly impersonal that you would be, thinking, wow, this is very, very open. Now, we tend to be more discursive, and so things run longer with it. But unfortunately, the best way to go ahead and get participation is just to jump in, and then I think you'll see some more of the natural openings will occur for you.
In the vast majority, as long as there's like order and decorum, most people are able to get their point across and share their concerns. And council is usually very willing to answer them right on the spot.
Okay. So is there a rule or ordinance that says you have to follow those particular rules or whatever during your meetings, and that's how you hold your meetings, or?
Typically, yeah, that's Robert's rules.
But I'm just saying, there's no other types of meetings or rules or.
If you're thinking about how other municipalities have actually adopted formal rules of order, the city does not have that. Their charter says that they will use whatever rules were in effect at the time when the charter was adopted, which I believe was in the mid-90s. But actual local rules that like you might see some other municipalities have, the city does not currently have one adopted.
Okay. Well, thanks.
Yeah, thanks. Yes, sir.
Good evening, Mayor Dion, Council. John Myronic, 44084 Davis. Some of you know me, some of you don't. I just come before council this evening to address a few items. One, I wanted to make you aware of the annual picnic at the American Legion Post 351. That's going to be on the 3rd of August from 12 to 5 in conjunction with the Marine Corps League Detachment 154. Hopefully, we'd like to see you come out, support us. All the proceeds we get from raffles and things are going to be going to support local veterans in need here in the community.
Could you give me the
Number
time?
two, sorry,
The time one more time?
12 to 5.
Thank you.
The second thing, to add kind of a clarification for the young man here, I believe he was going to ask the same question I'm going to ask. It's been a while since I've been in council meeting, but the way it appeared when you started, Mr. Mayor, that people could actually raise their hand or ask a question during any part of the council meeting. And I think maybe what you're asking is when you're going through the system here and you're going through your procedures, would you say, is there any comment from the public? So that way the public knows they can jump in at that point in time to say what they have to say or whatever.
Yes, sir. And I guess, on occasion, that does actually happen. However, moreover, and if we follow, like Mr. Sylvester saying, if we kept to the letter of the law with Robert's rules, it'd be very dry, mundane, and we'd boom, 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 file. We would have been done at 8 o'clock.
Sure.
Yeah.
What we do is we try to invite people to address any concerns on the agenda ahead of this agenda, or ahead of the
Okay.
meeting, so that way we can take their concerns into consideration when we're talking about that bulleted item. And then so, from there, we allow them afterwards, like here, to express concerns on
Right. This
anything
is-
off the agenda.
Right.
But if everyone has an opinion during the business meeting, we might never get out of here. So in order for the purposes of brevity, we take the consideration, we heard your statements, that I don't like fireworks, I love fireworks, great, okay. And then council takes that information, makes an informed decision based upon what they've heard, and then without it, we just have 7 minds up here that vote their conscience.
Gotcha. I know, I got you, I understand.
Just as a clarification, the idea where we have the questions at the beginning of the meeting is something very new and started when Mayor Dion took office.
Okay.
We never had that, so you would have to
Deal with what
go
we're
to
doing
the
now.
thing, listen to it, and when the decisions were all made and all voted, then you could tell us you were right or wrong.
Right.
The beauty of this is, we want to hear your input, so it actually affects the decision.
Sure, and that's great, that's great.
So again, the idea is anything that's printed on the agenda, that's what we want to talk about. And then right now, the communication would be other questions, answers, whatever else you want to talk about is great. But
Okay.
it's great that you have that opportunity. And yes, depending on what the topic is and how involved it gets, we do open it up, which
Sure.
again is something still relatively new to even have discussion during a meeting.
Yeah, so I
it's a
think
much
that-
more friendly, open.
Sure, yeah, I think, people are trying to get a better feel for how you're conducting business so they know how to do it properly,
And to
that's
be
all.
honest with you, we kind of wing it sometimes.
I've only been on council 6 months, but I've seen plenty of instances where we're in the middle of discussing an agenda item, and they've interjected, and we've never once stopped them from doing that. We may ask them to go to the podium and state their name and
As long as
address.
it's in a respectful manner, not interrupting, like they'll raise their hand, hey, I'm
Right,
passionate
yeah,
about
'cause
this.
you
This one
gotta,
hits me
you gotta move
personally.
along.
So
I
we try
got
to-
you, I
try to
got
give them
you.
that consideration, because again, it's a small town, there's no reason why you couldn't. We do this once a month. If we did it twice a month, it might be like, okay, hey.
Yeah, a true parliamentarian would say we all suck. I mean, it's just, you're doing it all wrong, it's terrible, it's horrible.
People just
but,
don't want to be
you know,
rude or, or
exactly,
anything,
right.
and be disrespectful either, and I think they're just trying to get a clarification or idea of how we're doing things. The other thing regarding the water rates, I would make a suggestion, Mr. Mayor and Council, as you indicated earlier with your example, Mr. Mayor, maybe you put something on the city channel giving people an idea. If you use 5,000 gallons, this is what your bill's going to be. If it's going to be 1,100 gallons, this is what your bill's going to be.
We got a couple steps ahead of that, actually. We got an app, we got a calculator that you can be able to use on the city website. We've got information we're gonna put out like more simplified, like you're saying, a more simplified calculation in the mailer that says, hey, we understand water rates are going up. And
Right.
exactly what you said, if you use this much, this is where you'd be. And we'd be able to kind of give people a breakdown of where they should be based upon simple math calculations.
Right, because.
If you know your consumption rate, come to me after the meeting and I'll show you the.
Okay, yeah, I do. But I mean, I just know because some folks that, they'll go to the city channel because they don't know how to operate the computers or whatever, and they
Right.
just look and they read the paper, and the paper says, oh, your bill's going up 4 times the amount. And they're panicking, and they don't know what's going on. But they believe what's in the paper. So I just thought if you put it on the city channel, then people could see it for themselves and have a better idea and get a better understanding.
It did go out with all the tax bills.
Oh, I know, yeah, the letter went out, okay?
And that's a little cumbersome, that letter.
But some people are sitting there analyzing and they're saying, okay, what do they mean?
Right.
Ready
Yeah,
to serve. They've never heard some of these terms. So that's why I just said, if you put it on the screen, they can read it and see it and say, okay, this is what it is. It might be helpful, might slow down some of the nervousness and everything of what's going on, maybe give a better explanation, to what's going on. And then, last but not least, I'd like to get on that committee for the water
You're
board, please. And I'll see you after the meeting, sir.
Yep, just come right after.
Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you for your comments.
Thank you.
Sir.
Okay, my name is Paul Cons. I don't know whether the microphone's on.
It is.
That was one of my things I was going to bring up, that I can't hear the people they're talking. Paul Cons, I live on 45814 Hecker. I've lived there since 1994. My intent to come here today was in regard to the water changes. And I had almost a 20-minute conversation with Phil before the meeting, and he explained a lot about it. But I think I've already sent you a message saying that I will volunteer to be on your committee, because I cannot believe that the city has let that go for so long. There is no way that the council could not have known that that was happening if they look at a balance sheet. Okay, it's not in the budget's balanced and everything else, but that's a liability, and it's got to show up on the balance sheet, and you've got to look at the balance sheet. But that's all settled. So I'm not going to talk about any more water. The only other thing I have to say is I know that a pawn shop is not something that you jump up and down about. It's a business. It does serve a purpose. And I was very disappointed in the council's decision to not even consider, nobody even brought it up, to extend 30 days license for this gentleman until you find out whether he is guilty of any violation. I did not hear any violation that he was found guilty of. And you, in a sense, are closing him down because the attorney read what he needs, what he can't do and what he can do without a license. His license is expired. He's out of business. He's closed.
Sure, but just so you know, he had an opportunity, these developments didn't come about yesterday. They didn't come about a week ago. These developments came about months ago. He knew full well he needed to renew his license and waited until the very last minute to do so, knowing he had pending items to manage. Now, you're getting this all after the fact.
Yeah.
So, if I was a business owner and someone's knocking on my door that says like FBI on the front of my jacket, and I need to renew my business license, I'm probably gonna do that action well ahead of the time rather than after the fact. There's a lot of other moving parts in this whole case, and I think if it were to shake out, I think you'd probably realize that it's not, maybe he didn't break a particular law here in Utica, but there are victims, potential victims.
That's
that may
my
be out
point.
there who-
That's my point.
who may not be-
It's all allegations and potentials.
Well, there's certainties that have happened. Just because charges aren't being brought necessarily doesn't mean he's innocent. It just means that maybe prosecution doesn't exist for this case, or there's a deal being made. So there's all sorts of moving parts and factors to this. Now, I can certainly appreciate your view.
Well, I would have, if I was on council, I would have suggested maybe give a 30 days notice, because you wanted more time to investigate, give him a 30-day license to continue operating, but you don't.
I don't know if you know Detective Morbido. He
No.
is very gifted and very well recognized as being a talented detective. He was very adamant. He said, you just simply can't renew this license. There's so much into this that when you follow the bread trail, the crumbs, and you go back, there's a very glaring thing that says, this isn't the kind of business that we want to do.
Oh, I understand that.
business with.
I understand that's not the type of business, okay? But he has had a business license for I don't know how many years. And,
But just in defense,
Just,
he
you know.
already has let it lapse.
yeah,
Okay, it's not as if he's current.
Yeah, I
and he
understand.
can't-
I
It's
understand.
already non-existent.
yeah, he said, he stated before, he would send in his license and year after year, and it would come up.
Yeah, he had
So,
an opportunity to come well in
okay.
advance, though. He
Very
just was
good.
given a missed opportunity.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Okay, anyone else like to address council?
I guess I just wanted to comment on that. I want you to be comfortable too in that we're taking some steps to ensure that the safety of some of our residents and the people who come to patronize some of the other businesses and so forth. So I'm sorry that we can't reveal all the details of this, but I just hope that you're comfortable that we are looking out for the best interest of the city. Yep.
pawn shop is not something that you're jumping up and down for.
It's not a tattoo parlor.
I don't
you
think
know.
it's anything about that. I kind of look at it as where the post office used to be, there was an Asian massage parlor, and it was closed down. Oh, yes, I do.
All right, everyone, well, if there's nothing further, we've reached the end of the meeting. If there's anyone that would like to address council on an individual level, you can certainly reach them after the meeting, but at this time, I would like to have a motion to adjourn the meeting.
So moved.
Moved by Sikora, it's been supported by Mr. Cunnington. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Very good. Motion carries. We are adjourned at
Mr. Adam?
10:03 in the PM. I'm ready
Be
for
safe
it.
on the sidewalk, you guys. Be safe on the sidewalk.
John,
This is a copy of the Robert's Rules.
nice to meet you.
I like that.
I used to be a member of the American Legion, 351, right? Yeah.
Like us or Faith, like who?
I'd be glad to.
Thank you.
I'll turn the mic.
That I don't know, but I know that we've always followed Robert's rules and most municipal, like I've had friends in the council in Grosse Pointe and other places. Robert's rules is what you